Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Monday, June the 6th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith. We'll have Andrew McGinnis with us momentarily, and we have another special guest joining us here today on the Ice Guys show, pro hockey player Sai Nutkovitch joining us here on the show. Pretty fly for a Sai guy. He is, if you ask me, because I was looking at your stats and your history playing the sport, Sai, and I'm seeing you putting forth a career best in points this year, if I'm not mistaken, for the Huntsville Havoc in the SPHL. What am I seeing? 70 points in 56 games for them this year? My gosh, man, hats off to you. Great job. Welcome to the Ice Guys. Great to have you with us.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So you're from Montreal. We'll let you start there. We'll let you tell the Sai Nutkovitch story of your hockey journey, obviously from Montreal, where obviously hockey's number one. I'm sure that's where you got your passion and love for the sport. So tell us how you got into hockey and the career journey that you've taken over the years.
Yeah, I mean, from Montreal, like as a kid, like hockey is really important. You know, not that I remember, but my dad and uncle and family tell stories of how they take us to the outdoor rinks at like 2 years old and put us on skates and just push us around out there. So I think hockey's always been a part of me and always been like what I enjoyed, and, you know, what gets you up in the morning. So I think I just played minor hockey throughout Montreal, and then I went to, I think when I was 17, I went to a prep school out in Albany, New York called HUSAC. I went there for 2 years. I actually had a really good time. There was quite a few guys from Montreal who were there at the time, my buddies. And I played a year of junior A in Cornwall, what I think is called the CCHL now, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Played for coach there, Ian McGinnis. Really enjoyed him, taught me quite a bit. Then I went up to upstate New York, played 4 years at Potsdam State for the Potsdam Bears. Had a blast there. Had an unreal college experience there, 4 years. Really good college town. Clarkson is actually in Potsdam. And St. Lawrence is about maybe just 10 minutes down the road. So it was pretty good. There was a lot of college people, a lot of good experience. And then after that, I played for the Fort Worth Brahmas and Dan Wildfong. Went there out of college and then played my rookie year there. North Richmond Hills is a beautiful place. Had an absolute blast there. CHL was like older guys at the time before the CHL and ECHL merger. So I definitely learned a lot. You know, it was different because even though it was college, like, you know, everyone matures at different ages in college, but it was definitely in CHL, like, as a young kid, like, there's a couple, like, younger guys on my team, but then I walk in that room, there's guys that have kids and, you know, they're married and all that stuff, and I just left philosophy 101 the other day, you know. I think after that, maybe bounced around the coast for 2 years. Played in some good spots. Fort Wayne is an unbelievable place to play. Had an absolute blast there. And then I played a year in the LNAH, which I'm sure you guys know about that league. I'm sure you have some questions about that league. And then
it's certainly not dull and boring. That's for damn sure.
If you're someone who wants fights and all that stuff and a little action during the game, you know, you get what you paid for when you go to a game in the LNAH. And then I think now I've played 6 years in Huntsville.
Wow, that's pretty good. 6 years in Huntsville. You're right. The LNAH, where they've got the ding, 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 the boxing bell ring sound ready on the PA system for every fight that goes on there.
We actually play, like, I'm sure if you heard, like, the Laval Chiefs, there's teams that play, like, a team that plays out of that rink, and it's called, like, the House of Pain, and they have, like, the banner with, like, it says House of Pain in red paint that looks like blood dripping.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I actually have some DVDs of that league from going back, I think maybe like about 15 years almost, and some of the former NHL guys that went up there, and it's just crazy that, I mean, it's literally just, you know, the old joke of I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out. That's pretty much how that league runs. So there's a lot of good clips on YouTube and stuff from that league.
Yeah, it's got a little tamer over the years because there are quite a few really good players who, like, when they're done playing in Europe in the American Hockey League and they're a little bit older, they still enjoy the game. So I would say, like, the top 6 forwards and the top 4 defensemen on each team are actually really good. Like, they're really good players. But just with where the people who come to the games want to see fights, so there are, like, 3 to 4, like, not just middleweights, like 3 to 4, like, heavyweights who, like, they know that's how they get paid and that's how they put, you know, there's bonuses and all that stuff is to fight. So they play it up for the crowd, and the crowd loves it. And it's not all where the teams play aren't like in like very populated like cities, so like people are.
Oh, you're talking about the rurals, the boonies of Quebec.
I mean, there's teams like in Sorel, or I don't know if you guys know where Jean-Pierre, Quebec is, or I can't even think of some of the other places. Where I'm trying to think of all the places we went to. Thetford Mines.
Oh yeah.
Like they're we're going north here. We're going up to North Quebec.
Yeah, the North Quebec. There was a little Letterkenny episode centering around North Quebec too. I remember. Absolutely legendary, hilarious. Every episode of that show is legendary. It's a hilarious show, but that one in particular, when they were going to making the Quebec trip, was pretty damn funny. Good stuff. You know, it's funny. I mentioned the boxing sound, like the bell ring, ding, ding, ding. Like, let's get the round started. Actually, this might actually end up being on one of Alex's DVDs he mentioned from a long time ago, because I really think it was from like 10 or 15 years ago, where everything had broken apart. There was a line brawl going on. Everything had simmered down. Then all of a sudden, when it looks like both teams are going to go back to their benches, cooler heads are going to prevail, I hear the ding, 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 ding on the PA system, and they start going at it again. I mean, I think the league is just purposely, hey, we got this sound effect ready. We want to keep the commotion going. We want to keep the brawl, keep the brawl going, keep the party alive. So it was just funny seeing that. But yeah, that league is batshit wild for sure when it comes to fighting, for sure. So I want to touch just briefly, Sai, on the 6 years here in Huntsville, because now you've been there for 6 years. So what that tells me is, A, you're playing a lot. B, you're having fun. You know, and your numbers there are good, especially this past season, a career best. And 3, you know, you like the area, you like the fan base, which apparently you said is really growing and really supporting the team down there in Huntsville. And you found yourself in a very comfortable spot. Whereas, you know, I'm playing, I'm producing, I'm enjoying the game, I'm having fun. Whereas you could maybe try to, you know, maybe punch above your weight class. And what good's that if you're just going to be a bench warmer? You're not going to get the minutes. Maybe you're not going to have as much fun or be able to be put in a situation where you're going to be able to be one of the guys that's counted on the team. So it sounds like you're in a nice situation in terms of comfort, and you get a chance to be an impact player here with this Huntsville team.
Yeah, well, I mean, also I'm at an age where I want to live a life that I enjoy and be in places I enjoy. I mean, like this year, there was a team that called and wanted me to come, but you know, it's just like you said, I want to be the guy or be one of the guys and play important minutes and all that stuff. And it's just, I get, you know, when I was younger, you know, to bounce around from team to team or play with 9 forward or 10 forward or just try and make a role. And I did that, and now I get to play every day, and I get to enjoy myself and practice and enjoy actually the life that's sort of been created for myself there. And going to the rink is still fun. I love it. In Huntsville, like the weather is very nice. You get to golf all the time. We have great ownership. They really take care of the players. We have great fans, you know, made great teammates there. Like I was just in Missoula, Montana for a wedding this weekend for Nolan Kaiser, who I played all 6 of my years with down there. So I made great friends there. You know, there's 2 other teammates that were 5 other teammates actually that made the trip down there also. So it's like a second home to me now, Huntsville. I've been there for so long, and I met so many great people, and they've taken great care of me there also. That it's like Montreal is one life, and Huntsville is the second life.
Yeah, and then, you know, we've had a couple other players from that league on the show, and, you know, talked about how, you know, hockey growing in the South, and I'm sure some people may or may not know, but University of Alabama Huntsville had a program that was Division I there for years. Cam Talbot, probably the most notable graduate from that school, and then they had to fold their operations because of the pandemic, and I don't know if they're going to come back or not. They've been trying to raise funds there, but it's interesting, you know, hearing you say that, you know, that the hockey, at least as far as a pro team, that's, you know, really big following and stuff. And I wonder, you know, if that could lead to possibly, like I said, the growth and expansion, because we see all these colleges down south that have added club teams or try to go Division I. So, you know, do you guys kind of work together sometimes, or even with some other teams where, you know, you see that growth with the youth programs and then kind of lead to where, you know, kids end up growing up going to play in a club team and then eventually maybe, you know, playing in that Southern League or other, you know, leagues around the country?
Yeah, I think every year has been a little bit different. I think with UAH, Alabama Huntsville, we actually share a rink, and we were like our locker room was right across from their locker room, and like over the years they had a hard time drawing fans, because I just think in college hockey it's really hard if you're not playing at like a high end like D1 school, that if your rink isn't on campus, it's really tough to get people there.
Right.
So with that not being the case, like our rink is in the middle of downtown Huntsville, so they weren't getting a ton of fans. Like every now and then, when we get like in maybe I think February, there'd be like 2 or 3 weekends where a ticket to our game got you into their game for free, and we'd play at 3 and they'd play at 7, and then the following weekend we'd reverse it, like they'd play the early game and play the late game. So I mean, we did stuff there to try and help them out a little bit. I think unfortunately they're just so far away from a lot of the other colleges, like in the conference they play in, that it's quite a bit of money, and I'm not sure they're going to make it back, which is unfortunate, because there's actually like murals in like the tunnel for Huntsville to go on the ice where we play. There's like history of the Havoc, and then there's a history of all the guys who play for UH. Like there's a Cam Talbot picture and other guys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think with the younger kids, I don't know if we did it. We did it before COVID. We haven't done it since COVID, but they have like stick and puck and stuff to try and help grow the game. Like Cody Hodgson started a bunch of stuff in Nashville, and he also did it in Huntsville. So when we were, I'd say for sure my first 2 years, I want to say even my first 3 years, that like there'd be 3 or 4 guys in the team that had to, or like it'd be scheduled that you'd go out on. Like it would be like Wednesdays from like 5 to 6:30, and you just help the kids out. They enjoy the game, trying like they don't even really have like skates and sticks. A lot of times they're just renting stuff to go on the ice right away. But it is growing and it's coming around. I think you see it more and more, like roller hockey, but like there's so many more players that are like playing even in the NHL from California or all these places that you wouldn't expect to be, you know,
Arizona. Look at Arizona, Tage Thompson, Austin Matthews, unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
so I think like you say, I think it's just growing the game, and I think now it's a little bit, obviously it's expensive. So you need to have a little bit of money, especially once you get going. Because the one thing about, I would say that's different from being in Canada to being down south is it's going to be way more expensive in terms of travel, because it's just not as easy if you want to play against good competition. The older you get, it's either you're leaving home or you're going to have to travel very far and be in hotels all the time and gas.
No question about that. We have Andrew McGinnis now with us here on the Monday show. Andrew, welcome in. It's funny, Sai, Andrew McGinnis is from Halifax, but he's also a Montreal Canadiens fan. So the both of you can commiserate now about what the Montreal Canadiens are going to do from here.
Hey, the number 1 pick is inbound.
Yeah. Who's it going to be?
We think it's Shane Wright. We think, but they're trying to make it sound like there's some doubt. So who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just theatrics or just to keep everybody on their toes or not. But I think we'd see the St. Catherine Street erupt like I saw it last year during the Cup Finals if he didn't go as number 1 pick. So
yeah,
we'll see. But
did you guys watch the Slovak play at all in the World Championship or some of the Olympics?
Did.
Yes.
Yes.
I think his name. He looks pretty good.
He is. Yeah, he is.
So he looks fully developed at 18 years old.
Yeah, scary, the skill level too, just incredible for him. Shane Wright, of course, is being compared to maybe a Patrice Bergeron level 2. Someone that's going to be able to be that complete two-way, 200-foot player, very much in his and the leadership qualities too of a Patrice Bergeron. So that's the appeal of Shane Wright. But I did see that some of that kid, Sai, that you mentioned, and yeah, looked pretty damn impressive for, you're right, 18 years old to be able to play like that already. Pretty impressive indeed. We're going to do a brief little memory lane here for Sai. It's not easy to find SPHL clips. It's not easy at all. Not easy at all. It's of course we're talking down the food chain a bit, but we did find one. It's a nice little goal scored by our special guest here as a member of the Havoc, and I think this was probably one of the first years that he was with the team. So let's have a look at it.
Now Sai Nutkovitch. He'll circle around, get it up to the high slot for Caribou. Back over to Nutkovitch. Nutkovitch back over to the near side. Off the skate of Ryan Wilkinson, but picking it up is Jeff Jones. He tries to get it down low, intended for Sai Nutkovitch, coming back for it on the far side, throwing it in on the rebound. It's up. Nolan Heisman to it. Sai Nutkovitch.
And look what he gets for scoring a goal. Someone just running him over like a freight train.
That's the clip you have to find, eh?
That's the one. Special, isn't it?
Hey, I'll take 30 of those every year.
Exactly.
Who
A
wouldn't?
goal in any hockey league, you'll take it. It's a goal. It counts on the score. When they look at the score with your score sheet and your stat line at the end of the year, they're not going to see exactly what every little goal looked like. They're going to see, a certain number of goals. And for this year, for instance, 70 points, which leads us to this next one here, where you're getting honored for being the points leader all time for this franchise here, the Huntsville Havoc. Very impressive feat that you were able to accomplish here. So here's Sai getting the accolades for it.
The Huntsville Havoc continued to rewrite the record books this season. After getting off to the best start in league history, the organization now has a new all-time points leader, veteran center Sai Nutkovitch. And the record-breaking 290th point came in a big moment as Nutkovitch netted the game winner in a shootout against Peoria on Friday night.
Is that 5-hole?
At the VBC.
It was low blocker.
Low blocker, okay.
It's a pretty amazing way to get the record, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely there was a little bit of weight to it too, because I know how much you guys know. So in the SBA, the game-winning goal, like in shootout, counts for a real goal, like towards your stat line,
Right. Yep.
which is different than the NHL. So in that thing, I shot third, and no one else had scored yet. So like the guys on the team, a couple of guys knew I was like a point away from the record, and some people didn't have any idea. So like when I scored, I knew it could have been big. So then when we still had to wait for two more guys on each team to either score or miss to know if I was going to get it or not.
Yeah.
So it was a little.
Did you know you were going low blocker, or was it like you went up there and then you were like, all right, like, are you someone that has that planned, or is that your go-to, or is kind of just that a read on the goaltender?
No, so I don't. I usually have a plan. I don't usually go low blocker and shootout. I think I scored on. I played against Levine quite a bit, the goalie, and we were in shootout earlier in the year in Peoria, and I went high glove on him. And we went to shootout quite a bit, so I had quite a bit of attempts this year, and I was going to slow down and I usually fake and try and wait a little bit or go high glove. But when I came down and I slowed up, it just looked like there was an opening there. And a lot of times, I just trust that if you see the net, you got to shoot at it. So
Right.
I like to have a plan, but I'm willing to adapt if I see something. Then you got to trust. It's really tough to. It's tough to go with no plan for some people, and it's really tough to just say, "Hey, I'm going to wing it." Because then if you wing it, you get nervous. So a lot of times, I have an idea of what I want to do coming down, but I'm willing if I see an opening to change.
A split-second adjustment based on what you're seeing from the goaltender. Even though you think, I'm going to go, top corner, I'm going to go blocker, I'm going to go along the ice, try to beat him 5-hole. You've got your plan, but you're not scared to adjust it right in the middle of your attempt if you see the goalie looking in a certain way.
I agree. I think a lot also depends on how many times you face the guy in shootout, and if it's in the same year, and the goalies. Like for example, way back when I played in Texas, we played Allen Americans like 17 times that year, and Aaron Dell was their goalie. And we went to shootout back-to-back weeks against them, and 1 week I scored on what would have been my go-to move back then. And I was like, well, there's no way I can do it again because he's a really good goalie. So if he thinks he's doing this, I have to change it up. And I just got lucky and it worked on him again, a different move. But I think there is a little bit of cat and mouse, especially when it comes to shootout against the same skater, same player, and the same goalies, at least in the year.
I used to know a goalie that he'd always tell me, I was like, man, do you like shootouts? And he told me, he goes, this is the one opportunity as a goaltender you can show you're better than a player. And I was like, obviously, it's kind of cocky saying that, but he's like, I like shootouts because it's just one-on-one. He's like, the player thinks they can take you on, and then you think it's the one chance where it's just one-on-one, So I think it's cool because, like you said, you were familiar with that goaltender, so you had some reads. But when you go off to these tournaments, or let's say in the Cup Finals, an East team playing a West, you might not know that guy, checking you, or the goaltender, and it makes it a little bit different.
No, definitely. There is a big, people's tendencies, whether it's players or goalies, forwards and defensemen, someone who can't cross over, great one way or pivot one way, or some guys who like using their backhands to pass the puck or can pass the puck. I mean, there's the more you play someone, the more you pick up on tendencies, especially the smarter the player you are, no matter what league, you'll find tendencies with people. So there is a difference when you play someone only 2 or 3 times, as opposed to seeing someone 7 or 8 times and then play them again also in a 7-game series.
Well, and one thing I want to ask you, because you're in the league where they have a 5-round shootout as opposed to the NHL's 3-round, and a lot of people don't like the NHL system. Do you think that it would be better for the NHL to maybe move to a 5-round system? Do you think that's a more fair balance than just having where if 2 guys score or the other 2 miss, the game's over?
I'm not sure if the amount of shooters matters. I think it's more of the style of game that people would like, whether it's they like the 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 more than the amount of shooters.
Okay.
I think the one thing also that is different in our league is that after 5, it's still a tie, someone can go again.
Oh, okay.
And that person can go as many times as you want after 5. It has to be 5 different.
It's like Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the international shootouts
Exactly.
are like
TJ
that.
Oshie. TJ
Yeah,
Oshie,
so
that's
it's someone different for the first 5, and then after that, if you want to send the same guy for the next 3 rounds, if it's still tied, you can. So I think that aspect is cool, but I also don't think in the NHL it would happen that many times. Like after 5, I don't know what the percentage is that go past 5 if they were, or if you did it at 3, or if that's what fans would want to see. You know, like Zdeno Chara taking penalty shots or what it is. But I think one of the things that people thought the shootout was cool when it was implemented because they weren't seeing it all the time. So now the 3-on-3 is like the new thing that's cool. So people want to see more of it because they think it's fun and exciting, and you get to see a lot of times in 3-on-3, the best 8 to 9 players are the ones on the ice the whole time. So
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. But I also think like if they made the 3-on-3 10 minutes, now you're not necessarily playing the same 8 to 9 players all the time, right? You're getting a little deeper. So I do wonder if the fans would still find it as entertaining because you're not going to see the same high-end quality players on the ice for the whole time as you do when it's only 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point there. The shootout is always a contentious topic. It always is. There's some people that think 3 shooters versus 5, which was a great question by Alex, because that's a debate that's been in existence for a while with the NHL. Should we increase it to 5 shooters? There's some people that say you just keep playing 3-on-3 overtime until there's a goal, never mind just the 5 minutes. But yeah, there's the good news is, as Kenny says in our chat, the NHL takes out the shootout for the playoffs. That's why I can live with the shootout in the regular season. They get rid of it in the playoffs, and they just keep playing until there's a goal.
I enjoy both ways. As long as it's not ending with a tie, it's fine with me.
Yeah, exactly. That I agree with you. That drives me nuts, Sai, with soccer. Not that I need another reason to rant on soccer, but I don't like ending in draws. I don't. Find a winner. What do? We're going to run around this soccer pitch, as they call it, for 90 minutes to tie 1-1, to not even decide a winner. Like, that's totally absurd in my mind, but that's the way they do it. I mean, that's the system, unfortunately, that they go with. But it's frustrating. It's angering. But there's a lot of things that anger me when it comes to soccer. But we won't get into them all. All right, Sai. Let's before we get into last night's game, we'll look at back at the the Tampa Bay New York Rangers game as Tampa gets back into that series, and then we'll preview Oilers Avs game 4 tonight. But first, Sai, you're from Montreal. You're a Montreal Canadiens fan. Here's your chance to rant and rave, say something that's bothering you about the team, whatever you want to talk about regarding this Montreal Canadiens team. What do you think of the Marty St. Louis decision to bring him back now as the permanent head coach moving forward? Obviously, the number 1 pick in the draft coming up. Probably, we think, taking Shane Wright. We'll see. But just your chance, side, if you will, to sound off on the Montreal Canadiens as a fan of the team.
Well, it would have been a little heated if this was filmed in, November, December, when I had to watch the way they were playing out there. But I think they've done a really good job since, they brought in Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes and obviously Marty St. Louis. If you watch all the Habs games, they were almost unwatchable the first 25 games of the year, the way they played and like the style and everything. It just wasn't fun. It's winning or losing. Like, obviously you want to win, but to watch them play was not enjoyable.
I think Andrew said something along those lines earlier this year. Yeah.
It was like, even if you're a fan, like, I want you to win the game, but if you're going to lose, okay, let me enjoy watching my team play. And that really wasn't the case. And I think they did a ton of great things. Marty St. Louis, obviously, you get, Cole Caulfield going and Suzuki, who are your cornerstones going forward. So it's great that they were successful, especially under that coach. But for the whole team as a whole, they were at least fun to watch. They were in the games. It was enjoyable. It's a pastime to watch the Montreal Canadiens, to get dinner and done in time, or to have a TV in front of your supper table so you can watch the game and be a part of it and talk about it, or listening to it on the morning shows and the night shows. So I think I really liked what they did. I think Jeff Gordon, if you look at that New York Rangers team, I think I saw this the other day, that he's basically responsible for 16 to 17 of the players who are playing on that roster right now. So I think as a Habs fan, you should be ecstatic about that because he clearly did a great job of finding talent, drafting good players, and free agency and all that. I think Kent Hughes is an agent, so he probably knows pretty well what he's got going on and how he wants to run things. And then I think Marty St. Louis, there's had a ton of great feedback from the players about how he is and how he wants to run practices and that they trust him. And he's got such a pedigree that he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. So if you give him the benefit of the doubt and try it his way, as long as he's probably going to be right more often than not. So you're going to end up being successful. Even if you doubt it, you might be like, well, the guy's a Hall of Famer. The guy's done this, Stanley Cup champion, hard trophy, this and that. And he's like, maybe I should give it a go the way he wants for a month,
No. I like his quote too. He says, "I don't even think I'm a really good coach yet," he said in this press conference the other day, Marty St. Louis. And I like that he said that because there's already people saying what a phenomenal job he did. And he did play better under him. There's no question about that. But at the end of the day, the record was still not great. And he's looking at that and saying, wait a minute, we've got the record we've got. I know we played a little bit better with more structure. Things were obviously better than how brutal it was early in the year. But I want this to be the record on my resume here for my first year with this team. No, I can do better. We can do better. I like that he said that right away. I don't think I've proven I've done anything yet, or I'm a good head coach. That's the kind of mindset that you want. Determination out of Marty St. Louis. So I love that quote. That's the winning mindset right there. And it was good to hear that. So Andrew, I know you've talked Montreal a lot, but you want anything to add before we go and recap yesterday?
Well, I just want to say that, I really strongly think that the Montreal Canadiens are going to be a team that what they were in October, November is going to be far, far different from what they're going to be this coming year in October, November. And that's not really coming from a fan perspective, but it's like what was just said. They weren't even bearable to watch, I pride myself, and I mentioned on this show, I'm the kind of fan that if my team is down 6-2 in the third period, I don't change the channel. I watch. But it was tough. It was real tough, and I think that they're the type of team, and really since I was a kid, that 1 year to the next, you better not think you're going to get the same result, whether it's good or bad. And some of the moves they've made and just with the mixture of youth and vets, I think they'll be fine, So it's a real interesting, makeup with the team, especially with injuries and, Montembeault with the workload he had and some of the defensive players and a lot of young guys playing together. So it should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Big offseason for a lot of these young guys as well. I think Suzuki had a good year, but I think he's ready to take that even next step for coming in the next season. And Chris Weidman signs the vet minimum. I like that. It sounds like he's a great leader in the room, and a lot of the guys really like him, which is more important than I think a lot of people give credit for. And I think one thing we've learned about having guests on our show, the Ice Guys, is the camaraderie, the team atmosphere. We all know it, but it goes to show. I mean, that you sign that vet min, and no matter how many minutes you're playing a night, he's a part of the team. You're on the plane, you're in the locker room, and that stuff matters, especially with a team where the average age right now is probably like 22, 23 years old.
Well, I think he was really important. Like you said, he was outspoken too about wanting to stay in Montreal, about how he liked it here. And I think
you want people that want to be there. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think going back to your point about next year, I think if you look at it, they're going to be so young on the on the back end next year. A lot of their best prospects are defensemen. And I think quite a few of them are going to be playing. That it'd be nice, to have an older guy to help them out, but also an older guy who won't be bent out of shape if he has to sit a game here or there. So that way to let the kids play. So I think it's a good signing. He's a right shot defenseman. He can run a power play if needed. I'm not sure how great you're going to be if he's running your first power play, but I think it's a good idea to have him around. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. To have some for a very young team, and it could be a tough seed. Probably will be, I would think. I mean, when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, you've got teams that were perennially the last few years not very good that I think are probably a little bit further ahead in their rebuild than Montreal is right now, and right within their own division. And I'm looking at Ottawa, I'm looking at Detroit, and I'm certainly looking at even Buffalo, which had a strong finish to the regular season. And maybe they can, use that as a springboard to at least maybe contend for the postseason next year. And then you've got question marks with Boston. I mean, it is, as a Habs fan, Sai, you're not going to shed any tears, but we have one of our colleagues is Jimmy Murphy, covers the Boston Bruins and has covered them for years. And he's on this show regularly. And Jimmy is just so beyond worried about this team starting next year. That things are falling apart. Bergeron might retire. We look at already what's happened. Tuukka Rask retired earlier this year. This defense is just a shell of what it used to be. What can Swayman do? Is he the guy number one long-term goaltending? There was no offensive depth beyond Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, that group, and now Bergeron may not even be back if he decides to retire. Like Jimmy Murphy's saying, there's some pain and some agony and some blues coming up for the Boston Bruins as early as next year, like to the point where they could dip their way right out of the playoffs, which could happen. Not even make the playoffs next year when you got these Ottawas and Detroits and these Buffaloes of the world that are getting better and are going to be pushing, I think, for a playoff spot. So if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, you're just going like this and say, oh, hell yeah. Let's get that Boston Bruins team out of the postseason. And you're not going to shed any tears, Sai, about any problems for Boston next year, will you?
No, one of my good friends, too, from in Huntsville, teammate, is the captain there, line mate Tyler Piacentini, big Boston Bruins fan from Weymouth, Massachusetts. And I was just at a wedding with him this weekend. I was telling him when they announced that all the injuries and all the surgeries and who's out for how long, that if Bergeron doesn't come back, they're done next year. Like, they're not making the playoffs next year. Because it'd be really hard to, because if McAvoy and Marchand aren't playing until end of November, middle of December,
yes,
and Bergeron is not playing, that's a lot of production, a lot of minutes you're going to have to replace to stay afloat till they come back.
Yeah, that is. And of course, yeah, you're right. The surgeries that are going to be undergone in the off season for, like you mentioned, those two Bruins, Marchand and McAvoy, it's going to make things even more challenging for them. They could get off to a rough start. I've already got Boston circled as bet against right at the very beginning of October. Right at the very beginning, spots to bet against them, maybe an under win total look as well. I mean, or point totals. When the win and the point totals for each NHL team are released for the 2022-2023 NHL season. So, yeah, Boston under, bet against Boston, definitely things we are looking at if we equate this definitely to how to handle this from a betting perspective. I mean, you've got basically Haggerty, Joe Haggerty, Jimmy's good friend, and Jimmy Murphy himself saying, this is bad. This is bad news written all over it for Boston. So how are you going to dispute that when two guys that cover the team daily are very, very forceful with their belief and their staunch reasoning for the Bruins going downward a bit next year?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I just had this conversation with someone a couple of days ago in reference with Tampa Bay. Obviously, with the cap troubles they have, obviously this is a big run for them. It's probably their last run with this core group for the most part. And I think there's going to be a radical shift in the Atlantic Division, because with Boston and Tampa having to make changes, Montreal, Detroit, and Ottawa on the rise, Buffalo slowly on the rise, I think we're going to see a lot of shakeup between now and this time next year in that Atlantic Division.
Do you guys think Nick Paul goes back to Ottawa? I mean, from what I've seen from him, I've been super impressed. Look at I mean, sometimes even playing on a team that has that cup caliber, like obviously Tampa Bay does because they've proven it, but like, when you're surrounded by guys like that, because I mean, it's been a daycare over in Ottawa, I mean, I say that, but they're all like my age, but like, and you go over and you're playing with Cooch and Stamkos and Hedman and those guys. I mean, Nick Paul is going to leave. What was it? It was a deadline and pickup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in those few months, the amount of growing that he's done as a hockey player has been crazy. I think, if he goes back to Ottawa, he'll be worth more money, but he'll be a hell of a lot better of a hockey player, I think.
I agree with you. I think his value, I didn't realize, I mean, I knew he was good, plays in the NHL, but I think he's been really noticeable every game in Tampa.
A nice bargain bin, $750,000, by the way, on the books for Nick Paul this season.
Agreed, but I think he's made himself a lot of money in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's been very noticeable. The Braden Point injury has helped his value go up even more because he's been playing on the edge with better players. And I think Ottawa probably let him go because they thought what he was asking for was unreasonable. And he's probably going to be asking for way more than that after the run he's had the last couple of months, though.
Yeah, no
They're
question.
Better off to sign him. They're better off to keep him.
They would have been.
Great segue to talk Rangers Lightning, by the way, for Game 3. It was Game 3 yesterday in Tampa. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, it was not easy. It probably should have been easier than it was for them, considering the territorial play was in their favor. 51 shots on goal. for the Lightning. They deserved to win that hockey game, but it was obviously much more difficult than maybe it should have been, as it took till the last minute for Tampa Bay to get that game-winning goal, courtesy of Andre Palat. A wonderful, just little drop/touch pass from Nikita Kucherov on that goal. Just a brilliant split-second reaction and decision by him to just touch that puck, just drop it back ever so slightly for Andre Palat, who released it quickly. So the combination of the sudden drop pass by Kucherov and the quick release instantly of Palat, and that's how you're going to beat Igor Shesterkin. It's got to be the perfect play. It's got to be perfect execution on it. And that's what we saw from Tampa Bay to get that 3-2 goal, which they ended up winning. 5-on-5, if you look at all the stats, you look at all the key advanced numbers from that game yesterday. And, Sai, we've definitely been incorporating this in our betting and handicapping breakdown of hockey on a day-to-day basis. The high danger chances, the expected goals margin, all of these different types of stats that indicate a little bit stronger, indicate how the flow of the game went. And Tampa Bay controlled all those numbers. Heavy edge and expected goals, heavy edge and high danger chances and scoring chances, especially at 5-on-5, even strength. I mean, they really took that game to the New York Rangers yesterday at 5-on-5, and 51 shots on goal. Definitely deserved to get that victory. Although Shesterkin was just spectacular, even in a losing effort where he kept his team right in it and they had a chance to steal it. Here's the one thing that would concern me about Tampa Bay, though, is the penalty kill against that Rangers power play. Rangers still scored twice with the man advantage, and it's what got them the 2-0 lead. The Ranger power play, guys, is red hot. You know, you can't fucking stop it right now. It's been absolutely spectacular throughout these last several games, going back to, I believe, Game 6 of the Carolina series. And it almost got Tampa Bay in trouble. And they're very fortunate they rallied back from 2-0 down to win that game. But what if, you know, the penalty trouble kept going? I mean, Corey Perry slashing at Shesterkin. I get that he's trying to get under Shesterkin's skin, and that's his game, Corey Perry. It is. Crash the net, you know, try to push the goalie just ever so slightly, make it look like, hey, we're going to try to disrupt you. We're going to try to throw you off your game somehow. And that's Corey Perry. That's what he does. But when you're starting to slash the goalie, you know, that's when you're taking it over the line and you're committing a penalty. You're in the box for 2 minutes and you're giving life to a team that's had a red-hot power play. And that's exactly what happened yesterday in the second period. So Tampa Bay still got to either figure it out, stay out of the box, or do a better job on the penalty kill, because the New York Rangers power play continues to be just rolling along at an exceptional clip for them. And this goes all the way back to about Game 3 or 4 of the Carolina series, when that Rangers power play really started to get going. Zibanejad and Kreider and Andrew Kopp chipping in, and the kid line with Hedl and Lafreniere and Kakko has kept playing better for the Rangers as this series has gone on. So Tampa Bay gets the win yesterday, but I think even John Cooper will admit, yeah, our 5-on-5, we earned it. We were dominant in that game, but we've got to either figure out, hey, stay out of the box or kill the penalty, you know, when we're facing this New York Rangers power play. And Corey Perry, as much as I love that he's, you know, trying to get Igor Shesterkin rattled a little bit, you have to at least try when a goalie's playing that well, but you don't want to slash the goalie and put yourself in the penalty box against a great power play. And that's what happened yesterday. So discipline is going to be a key for Tampa, you know, skirting the line, but not crossing over the line, you know, with some of these penalties and that they take is also going to be something they focus in on. But yeah, great game from the Lightning, especially at even strength. And they are back in the series now, trailing 2-1. Sai, we'll start with you with thoughts from Game 3 and the Rangers Lightning series.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Tampa and the 5-on-5 play, I think they're going to have to make adjustments, but their PK has been really good, and they've been lucky that they've faced teams that have had a struggling power play or haven't burned them yet, so they've been able to play a little bit, not a bullying style, but like, you know, take the extra shot here and there, and they're not worried they're going to kill it off because they have a really good PK. But Florida's power play was struggling. Toronto's power play wasn't great against them either, but the Rangers power play, it's different. It's ran very well with how it's set up and the concepts they're trying to run with. Adam Fox runs the top of the power play as good as anyone in the NHL. He may be top 3 guys quarterbacking a power play, and it's set up really well for him as a right to pull it to the middle to stay at, and then goes to Panarin with the strong side. When Panarin has the puck on the strong side, he's got 3 righties to take a one-timer with Strome as the bumper, Fox up top, and Zibanejad's big one-timer on the other flank. And then you throw in Chris Kreider scoring whatever it was, 35 tips or rebound goals that he had during the regular season. it's a really good net front presence, right? So there's going to be seams. It's going to be tough for Tampa. They're extremely aggressive on the PK from what I've noticed watching them, which now you're giving, if you're going to make people make mistakes, but you're also, if someone beats you, they're going to have a little bit of time and space to take a really good quality shot. But I think it's who they are, and they're comfortable, and they're going to play their game. I'm sure they're going to get spoken to or talked to or be discussed in the room about, listen, like, we got to take it easy on the penalties. We got to play hard in their face, but we can't go over the line as much as we have in the past 2 series.
When you look at that stat, I'm just going to look at it right now. The high danger chance percentage, 73 for Tampa, just 27 for the Rangers. So it does speak to, and it ended up being 3.28 to 1.51. So they more than doubled up the New York Rangers in expected goals, Tampa Bay. So again, no argument with them winning the game. They earned it, and now they're back in the series. Alex, do you think they're back in the series to stay, or can the Rangers actually go in Game 4, 3-1, take a stranglehold again, or is this now destined for Tampa Bay's awake now? The Bear is alive, the Bear is awake, and now we've got ourselves a series.
I mean, it wasn't the cleanest win for Tampa Bay, and that's the way you have to get through the playoffs, obviously. But really, it's going to come down to whoever can stay out of the box. I think the cleaner team is going to advance here, because you saw Jacob Trouba take 3 penalties that were really bad. Kucherov had the high stick and had a penalty early in the game. So both power plays are rolling right now because both teams have made some undisciplined moves, gotten a little too physical, and taking penalties at the wrong time. I think that's really going to be the equalizer. But the Rangers certainly have given Tampa some life now. They're only down 2-1 with Game 4 at home. This could easily be a spot where Tampa Bay, kind of gets that energy back, that last push. It didn't seem like that. Like I said, if you look at it from the last, let's say, 5 periods, it seems like Tampa just really didn't have their horses, off and on for most part, especially in Game 2. We said they were just completely outclassed and outskated in that game. But Game 3, obviously, a better outing, but like I said, just really sloppy play at both ends, and that's the reason we saw the high scoring. The way both goaltenders are playing, if we don't see that many penalties, that's probably a 1-0 game in overtime, honestly. So that's the thing. It's going to be, who stays out of the box the most in Game 4, and can both goalies, step up. Goalies, at this point now, Shesterkin and Vasilevsky, like I said, they're going to have to, steal games for their clubs at some point moving forward if they're going to advance out of this round.
I think Jacob Trouba is having vision problems. I think he's mistaking the look of the penalty box for a sexy chick, because he keeps wanting to go back there and see things and and go back there over and over and over and over again. That's exactly what I thought. Like, this guy's just keeps on going back to the penalty box. He just must love it in there. I mean, it just must be his personal sanctuary or some shit. I mean, holy shit. I mean, he's got to cut it out. I mean, at some point you're going to pay the price for it when you're taking that many penalties. He's another one. He's always been just around going to that line and maybe crossing over at a time or two. But that's Jacob Trouba. That's the way he's going to play. He's going to be a take no prisoners, knock you on your fucking ass defenseman. And that's the way he plays the game. And at playoff time, that's good. But you don't want him to be sitting in the box for 6, 8, 10 penalty minutes a game either. So it's about, maintaining some level of discipline, kind of like my Hamilton Bulldog that I was watching yesterday. I was there at the game in Hamilton, Arbor Jackeye. He's going to be a phenomenal defenseman, I think, in the NHL. And he's a very physical player, but sometimes he's hitting guys off, away from the puck, a little bit of a, questionable hits, and he ends up in the penalty box. So he's got to rein in the discipline a little bit. Could say the same thing about Jacob Trouba. Good comparison there. Andrew, thoughts from yesterday's game?
Well, it was funny. I did a VSiN hit. I was on for about 10 minutes with them in the between periods for the first and second. And they're like, all right, Andrew, so what are you looking at? If you're jumping in game, what are you looking at here? And I said, I can't see anything but an under. But of course, we were talking about in-game numbers. So the full game under cash, but the in-game, if you had anything in-game, you would have lost, because it felt like for about 50 out of 60 minutes, not a hockey game, it was just penalties. And, I respect it because, I want the refs to call whatever they're going to call. But from a viewer standpoint, it was just annoying. I mean, it was like there was no flow of the game. Every 3 minutes, there's a call happening. But the Rangers continue to make good of their chances, and I'm not going to hate on them for that. They make good. Zibanejad's got an absolute rocket, and they capitalize. But to Alex's point, take away the special teams, and you guys are talking about it. The 5-on-5 play, Tampa Bay played very well, and Stamkos kind of said that post game, he's like, look, I thought we played a pretty good 5-on-5 game, got to clean up those penalties. But I thought they were aggressive. I thought they had a lot of different shots. They're trying to get Igor moving right to left. And, between Corey Perry and the guys trying to get into Igor's face, and then between Igor trying to get nominated for an Oscar, it's a little bit of both there with that, with that type of stuff. And I mean, if you guys saw the slow-mo replay, I'm sure you guys have seen some of those memes going around today. It's hilarious. I mean, he just got tapped on the visor or the mask, and he flew back like there was a sniper in the building. That stuff happens, though, and it's all part of the game, and he did what he had to do to get his team a power play. But I think, like Alex saw my tweet yesterday about the series isn't over till a home team loses. And that's just a cliche thing. Like, I don't actually take that. Like, I'm not putting like money on just because of that type of thing. It's just kind of a saying. But especially with a team like Tampa, I think that's where that saying can really apply. Whatever we saw at MSG, let's wait until game 3. But when it comes down to it, though, we have to all realize Tampa Bay still had to come back. They were in the dire moments. I mean, if that happens to Edmonton tonight, they're fucked. Like, for lack of better words, like, they're not going to come back and avoid, the sweep if they're down 2-0. So, I mean, Ian, I'll lead right into it. I think that Edmonton has to get off into a good start. They have to have a good first period. I know you like to lead things off, so I'll throw it back to you, Ian. But I just want to say, we talk about avoiding elimination or avoiding going down 3-0. I think it's similar things. Edmonton is right up there where I think if you like Edmonton, you're taking them first period money line. Maybe you want to have half and half, but this is a team that McDavid goes out there, boom, 6 seconds into his shift, lights the lamp. And Evander Kane's been the story of the Oilers, good and bad, this playoffs. Scores 13 goals, 13 games. Now he's out, takes Nazem Kadri out. The thing is, though, when it was before the suspension was announced, you hate to say this stuff, and you're just being an analyst, and I hope Kadri's okay. But I thought that was like, okay, they lost that game, but this could really be good for them with Kadri out, great 200-foot player. Oh, wait, now Kane's out too. And which team is the deeper team right now? Definitely not Edmonton. So that 1-for-1 swap benefits Colorado 110%. Guys, I feel like we can get a great in-game over spot in this game. I know it kind of sucks with two teams like this to wait, but if we can get even a 6 even or a 5.5, and our DraftKings, the Hockey Podcast Network sponsor there, I think the third period is the highest scoring period. I've bet that. I look at it, and I think that we're going to see the slow, if we do see empty netters, if we do see desperation from Edmonton, no matter what the score is, I think that's what we end up seeing is that the game start a little bit slower and then pick up quite a bit here. But I always say penalty kills can motivate a team, but there's no motivation there after you score the first goal, and then you're pretty much on the PK for about 5 minutes. That's not good for your team. So when I look at tonight's game, there was a prop mentioned to me by a coworker, Andy Lang, Nugent Hopkins under 2.5 shots. He's been dialing in on those. I mean, the unders, we always talk about overs, but Nugent Hopkins hasn't really been shooting the puck that much. Even a guy like McKinnon under 1.5 points seems to be pretty good. But when I look at the one I really like tonight is Valerie Nichushkin to get a point at minus 135. He's a guy on a line with McKinnon and Landeskog. He's kind of like that guy that obviously what's McKinnon to get a point? Ridiculous number. Landeskog, still not a great number. The guy on the line with them, you can get a pretty good number there with them. So that's kind of where I'm looking. Jesse Puljujarvi is a guy I'm expecting to have a big game for the Oilers. But I'll tell you what, as much as it's a battle of the depth, it's the Leon and Connor show or nothing tonight, I think, for the Oilers. If you want to get your props in, I do like some of those second line guys. But when it comes down to it, the matchup between McKinnon and Connor McDavid will have to be won by McDavid or this series is over.
He's got to step it up. I don't care that people are pissed off that I, said he's got to be better after game 2. He does. You put yourself in a position where you are at such a caliber of player that you've got to be somewhat, not like crazy good, but you can't be totally invisible and non-impactful. That's what Connor McDavid was in game 2. Now, to his credit, in game 3, he comes out there, scores the goal in the first minute. Great job. And in the first period, I thought he was buzzing. He was flying all over the ice. But I thought as that game went on, he became less and less impactful, less and less noticeable. And a lot of that's Colorado's checking the hell out of him. and the defensive job that they've done. Cale Makar just swats the puck away from him multiple times in this series, like, swatting a fly. That's exactly what he's been doing. Like, the defensive game that Colorado has played on McDavid has been terrific. But he's also Connor McDavid. He's got to just find that way to overcome it, get up to that next gear, and do it for 60 minutes. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
The
Well,
first
Ian, how
period,
many times
great
did they
to see that?
Did Draisaitl say, "I'm healthy, I'm fine"? How many times in the media after the Flame series, he's like, "Stop asking me, I'm fine"? Does he look fine to you guys?
He's not.
No,
He's not. Him and Darnell Nurse are not even close to 100%. There's not even any point speculating. It's a fact. They are not healthy. Darnell Nurse has got an oblique issue. He's not even close to 100%. Leon Draisaitl had an ankle problem coming into this series, and now he almost got slew foot, by the way, the other night. That sure as fuck is not going to help his health situation. There's no way he is close to 100%. So it's all kinds of issues for them health-wise. They can't match the depth of Colorado up front. They certainly can't match the depth of defense with Colorado. Look what Colorado can throw out there. Devon Taves, Cale Makar, Eric Johnson, Bowen Byram, who's been great. This guy skates like the wind, too, like everybody else on that blue line. Jack Johnson's a capable vet that they can bring in when Sam Girard got injured. You've just got a spoiled embarrassment of riches blue line for Colorado. What have you got for Edmonton? What have you truly got? You've got a less than 100% Darnell Nurse who's playing like a shell of himself because of it. You've got Cody Ceci, who couldn't cut the mustard in Ottawa and Toronto, got bounced in both places. You've got Evan Bouchard and Tyson Barrie, who love rushing the puck and shooting the puck and all things offense, not so much liking anything defensively, though, either of those two guys. How about that great angle that Bouchard took on that goal the other night?
Horrible.
Phenomenal job.
Let's give the offensive guy a little bit of credit there, too.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good offensive play. It's really getting taught these days to the younger kids when you're working way up to, obviously NHLers, but that he cut, when you get an angle on the guy, you cut in front of him and you don't have to hit him. You take away his hands so that way his stick isn't available. So, he looked weak and soft on the play, but if you go back and you really watch the replay, Comfort did a great job of, once he established inside position, completely getting inside his hands and taking him away, and that's why he ended up falling down. But
why doesn't he just go down the middle? Why doesn't Bouchard just skate down the center of the ice, play a 2-on-1? I mean, it's a weak goal from Smith, but how the hell do you play the outside on that play?
Well, exactly. So that's a different argument. So the argument could be that he didn't have to go for a race for that puck. He could have played it safer and, kept him to the outside for a perimeter shot. But I guess he probably felt like he had a step or two steps on him and he could have got there. But he also could have been the hero 5 seconds earlier if he didn't hit the post. So he went from hero to goat a little bit on that play, because I'm pretty sure he took a shot that went off the post right before.
He did, right before that JT Compher goal was scored, which was, by the way, a horrendous. I feel brutal for Mike Smith because he played a great game up till that point, but everyone's going to remember you gave up the game-winning goal on that horse shit shot.
I think it's tough. Just a little bit of what he was talking about before. I think it's tough for Edmonton. They're going to get a tough rap in this series no matter what, because Colorado has done a really good job of neutralizing what Edmonton does well. And Colorado is built they're big, they're fast, they're strong. But when they get in the offensive zone, you can't take the puck from them. And I think that's one of the reasons that people have been seeing a little bit less McDavid, is that especially when they were in Colorado the first 2 games, Bednar did a great job of, when McDavid was on the ice, he put around Nichushka and Landeskog against him. And they played so much in the Oilers' D zone, and that's not where they're great at. They have a hard time coming out of the zone and stuff like that. That it really has neutralized them quite a bit for the series.
Bednar had the balls to go power on power, Sai, you're right, with McKinnon's line against McDavid's line, and it's worked out for him because they're in the offensive zone. His guys, the Colorado line, they're not. McDavid and company. And you're right, that's an excellent observation, because you get them to play defense all of a sudden, and, man, it just makes them totally – and it's why they're lacking effectiveness, especially McDavid at times. They're defending so much with having to be out at the same time as McKinnon. Now, of course, in Edmonton – Jay Woodcroft's got a chance to get away from that matchup, with the last line change. But at the same time, it's not always going to be easy to do that. And it didn't really make too much of a difference, obviously, in Game 3. The result ended up being the same, Colorado winning. I'd like to make a case for Edmonton, because I'd certainly like to see this game go beyond 4 games, but it's hard. For me, I'm on Colorado tonight. I am, to finish it off. Minus 135. I just think Edmonton has shown me that even with their best push, their greatest push, they've got, obviously Mike Smith can look great 1 minute, give up a horrendous goal to Comfort the next. The defense, like I said, Darnell Nurse is their best defenseman by far with a bunch of question marks, and their best defenseman by far is not even 100% with his health right now. So that's a terrible thing to have happen right now going into a game that you have to win. You don't have a Vander Kane. And all this talk that Kadri being out, and it's big. It's big. If they go to the Stanley Cup final, and it looks like they will, Colorado, if they don't have Kadri for that series, whether it's Tampa or New York that they play, that's a big deal. That is a huge deal. Like they're going to want him back, and they're going to need him back in that series. They can probably get through this series, but the one thing you've got to have that's you feel good about with Colorado, with Kadri out, is the way Comfort's played. And he's going to take that second line center spot in the place of Kadri tonight. And he's been terrific lately. Go back to Game 7 against St. Louis, and JT Compher has been very, very good for this hockey team. He has scored big goals. He's been all over the ice at both ends. He's a terrific two-way player, terrific 200-foot player. He's been excellent. He's gotten his offense going, which is an even bigger bonus. And that's what gives you faith that they can withstand Kadri's absence. Because of the way he's playing, we know he brings it defensively, but he's got his offensive game going right now for the Colorado Avalanche. You look at Compher, the last 4 games, he's got 5 goals and 5 points for the Colorado Avalanche in the last 4 games for them. So that's why when I look at player props tonight, it's my number 1 player prop. Is JT Compher. There's no question about that. It's value. He's now going to be in the second line center spot here tonight for this Colorado Avalanche team. I think it is definitely something that you can take advantage of. And obviously to score a goal, he's still in that plus 280 to plus 300 range to score a goal. You can turn 100 into 300 if you bet that goal score prop for JT Compher. He's got 5 in the last 4 games. So he's the player prop with value, in my opinion, for the Colorado Avalanche tonight. And we're going to, and it is, I'm going straight out of Compher, city of Compher. Yeah, we're going to do it tonight here. Crazy motherfucker named Compher, scoring goals with attitude. JT Compher for the Colorado Avalanche right now. And playing a 200-foot game with attitude as well, I should point out. JT Compher is my number 1 player prop tonight. I like Colorado to finish it off. I like both teams to score in the first period again as well. It cashed for me Saturday night. I'm going to go back to that well. Both teams to score. Plus, I believe it is 140 in that range the last I checked. Yeah. Both teams to score first period, plus 140 tonight with Colorado and Edmonton. And I'm also going to jump on the over 2.5, plus 100 third period. That's the one that I'm not going to do the full game total. I'm going to stick to the third period total. Over 2.5, plus 100. It's available pregame. You can bet it at a lot of sports books, the third period totals before the game starts. So that's what I like there. Colorado, Edmonton, over 2.5, plus 100. And it is perfectly in line with what Andrew said earlier. He likes the highest scoring period to be the third period. I think that's probably a good chance of that happening, especially with this being an elimination game with Edmonton trying to avoid the sweep. Alex, we'll go to you next, and then Sai after that. Alex, what do you think here, Game 4?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this series is pretty much over with. Colorado, the way that they were able to, kind of just take over that late in that third period, it just shows, like I say, I always talk about killer instinct in the playoffs, and they've got Edmonton right in the same spot where they had Nashville. And this is a team that knows how to close out. Like I said, all of the hype and talk about them not being able to get out of the rounds, that's all past them now. They've got their eyes on the prize here tonight. And Edmonton, for like I said, the fight that they have shown in Game 3, and having McDavid score right off the bat, that's what they're going to need. If you do like Edmonton in this game tonight, the one thing you'd have to look at would be score in the first 10 minutes. Yes, plus 135. That's for Edmonton, not just any goal in the first 10 minutes, but specifically the Oilers, because they have to get off to a hot start and have to keep their crowd in, keep their own energy and momentum up. Because as soon as if they fall flat, or if the game just kind of takes a flat turn, which it did really in that second period, there was some up and downs, and it just kind of had this flat feeling in the third. And that's when Colorado they're able to pounce. They're almost reactionary sometimes when they're on the road. They can kind of feel that change and shift happen, and that's when it's their time to strike. So if Edmonton wants to survive to make it a Game 5, they have to score early and often. I just don't think that's the chance. I got Colorado minus $1.20 yesterday. I also jumped on that third period over. I got 2.5 at even money. A lot of times we see 2s, but obviously with how high scoring this series has been already in these two teams, you're going to get 2.5. I'm not worried about that. I think That's still a decent number and a good price. So those are my 2 plays here. I think Colorado will advance to this Stanley Cup final, and they won't be touching the Campbell Bowl. Somebody was talking about that on Twitter earlier about who touches the trophy if they win, and no one has touched the Western Conference trophy since the lockout. The only team that's touched the Eastern Conference trophy were the Pittsburgh Penguins the 2 times that they won it. So just a fun fact that I was reading before we got on the air.
I want to get your guys' thoughts just real quick. This isn't off topic, but it's about the favorite. Colorado's been the favorite all year long since last summer. And I think it really is a good message to a lot of people that don't like betting chalk, right? Future markets, sure, you could look at the Warriors in the NBA, for example. Look at what a price you could have gotten on them to make the finals, let alone win. But I think it's a lesson that sometimes it's okay to be chalky, because that number you're getting in September on Colorado is not the same as the number you got in January or March or June. So I think it's really, it's important to mention that. It's kind of like the argument I'd have with people when I was betting Matthews to score a goal at minus $1.20. Someone would say to me, well, how can you bet a guy to score a goal? When you've got Ian cashing plus 400 some nights, I get it. But when Austin Matthews scores over 60 goals, it's hard to blame a guy for betting a minus 130 for someone to score a goal. And so I think it's a good lesson to be learned for a lot of people about sometimes the team that's expected to make the cup is going to. It's not always going to be the St. Louis 17-1. And I think it's important for bettors to learn that, because sometimes the public quote for quote or the favorite is right.
JT Compher, I just looked to get a point plus 130. A couple books do have it. How do you not take that? I mean, 5 points in the last 4 games. Second line center tonight for the Colorado Avalanche, playing on that second line for them. Going to get the minutes. He's done well on the third line, getting these 5 points in the last 4 games and 5 goals in the last 4 games. Now he's going to be with Lehkonen and Rantanen, centering that second line for Colorado. So I think it's a phenomenal bet. Compher to score a point, Compher to score a goal here tonight. Definitely. And now he's going to get even more responsibility, minutes, ice time, situational play. He's going to get an increase in all of those things tonight. So watch him probably have another big impact on the game tonight if Colorado is going to win. I think if you like Edmonton, you bet first goal, because they have to come out early, strong start, or else they're going to have no shot in this game. So I think for Edmonton, if you like that side, backs against the wall, it's first period, or maybe you bet them to score the first goal like they did in game 3. I just don't know if I can trust this team right now for 60 minutes with how Colorado's just asserted their dominance and how Edmonton's less than 100% with 2 of their really key players, especially Draisaitl and Nurse. All right, Sai, give us your breakdown, your analysis here. Game 4, Avs and Oilers.
Well, I think an interesting thing, go to some of your betting stuff to keep an eye on is I find Edmonton is more explosive when McDavid and Draisaitl play together 5-on-5. Even in the regular season. I don't know what the stats are if it is to back it up there. I think they may win more games and they're a deeper team when they're broken up. But in terms of them going off in the fireworks, when they play together, they're usually not going to get 1 goal a game. They usually go for 3 or 4 points, which allows the game to be a little bit higher scoring, stuff like that. I think the home fans are really going to try and help Edmonton get off that quick start that you're talking about, because everyone knows how important the first goal is. And the cliche of how important the first goal is in a hockey game, especially at home, playoffs, and get the crowd going and all that buzzing. I think Compher has played well, but he isn't Nazem Kadri. I think he's on a hot streak. He's on a hot streak, and how well can he ride it, and how long can he ride it? Because there's that.
He's a pretty goddamn good substitute or replacement, though. Yeah.
No, I agree, but there's always that saying that there's a reason someone's a 2 center and someone's a 3 center, right? It's because the consistency of which they can do it and provide that production and play. And, he has played. I agree with you. He has played great. He's done really well, but he's also used to not playing as quality as deep pairings or as quality as forwards. So his matchup is also going to be a little bit harder now as he goes. So I think that's one thing to pay attention to a little bit. I think Edmonton's going to find a way to send it to Colorado. I just think there's a little bit of pride. No one wants to get swept at any point in the playoffs, especially at home. You have really good players on Edmonton and pride players, Zach Hyman, McDavid, like guys who want to do good. And I think they'll probably be able to send it back to Colorado for 1 more. But I think that will be. I think Colorado is like a wagon. Like, if you had to describe a team and how you want to build a team in the NHL right now in 2022, in terms of like skill, speed, but also like size, like, like Nichushkin is huge. He's a runaway freight train. Like Landeskog, Artturi Lehkonen is a hound. Like, they're fast, but they're not like 5'4" guys. They
They're
got
big
their hound
and they can
Adriano,
skate.
but they're top 6 and they're top 9. Like, those are 6'2", 6'3" guys who can absolutely go up and down the wing and keep you on their back. Like, it's very hard. And if Sam Girard was playing, like, he's their third best defenseman. Everyone's talking about how great they are. They're going to be missing their third best defenseman and their second line center. People are expecting them to not, miss a beat, which is incredible. Because, Bowen Byram's done a great job of stepping up and playing 20 minutes a night, but they lost a defenseman who was playing on their second power play and was playing, I think, somewhere close to 22 minutes a night. And now they're going to lose Kadri, who plays 20 minutes a night as a forward. And it's going to be, at least everyone expects it to be, no big deal. We're going to keep riding on.
Yeah, this is remarkable. I'm looking at their defensive depth chart right now, Sai, and I already said how it's unbelievable they lose Girard and you can put a Jack Johnson in there. Like, this guy's a veteran guy. He knows his way around the block. He's been doing this for a long time. He's a good, steady veteran defenseman who's going to help you, not be a liability, not be a deer in the headlights playing in a big playoff game or a big playoff series. That's what they get to put in the lineup when they lose somebody to injury. That's insane. Like, this is a guy that knows how to play, Jack Johnson. And you look that if they suffer another injury, let's say someone other than Girard also gets injured moving forward for the Avs, you've got Ryan Murray, who was thought at one time to be a really great NHL defenseman, had that kind of ceiling. Now he's been marred by injuries over the years. There's no question, but that's a capable enough player. You got a Curtis McDermott who's played a ton of games and can throw the weight around, can drop the mitts as well if it's required. It's just unbelievable how far the depth goes on the blue line for Colorado, and it's totally unmatched, especially when you compare it to what Edmonton's putting out there right now. And what I think, Sai, you agree with this? You can say if you agree or not, but I find Colorado, they've got a 5-man attack on every shift where the defensemen are actually they jump up almost every shift. They're involved in the offense, in the offensive zone. And the reason they can do that, usually back in the day, it's pinch the defense when you're trailing in the third period. Activate the blue liners when you're trailing in the third period. That's the time you do it, and only then. Now you're seeing Colorado, the defense are joining the rush, joining the play, and getting involved in the offensive zone every single shift just about. And they can do that because they skate like the wind, all of them, pretty much 1 through 6, and they can get back into defensive position if by chance there's a turnover of the puck, if by chance, there's a big stretch pass up the ice from the opponent, because they can all just skate just incredibly well and get themselves back into proper defensive position and proper defensive posture to try to withstand a rush chance or a transition chance. There's hardly any other team in the NHL that can get away with that and pull that off other than the Colorado Avalanche, and it's really something to behold. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think, their decor is extremely mobile. I think they jump in the rush as the fourth guy, but they also do it from breaking out. Like, that's what gives them they don't just wait to the neutral zone for the guy to jump the rush. Like, that weak side defenseman or the net front D-man, when they get the puck clean, those guys are going. Even when it's Josh Manson, who I wouldn't say is an offensive defenseman, like, they're going. And just the fact that you have another guy there, of it being 4 instead of 3, creates more time and space for your good players to carry the puck to get an easier entry. And the one big thing that I think Edmonton is different from Colorado. Like, McDavid comes back and gets the puck sometimes to help them make an easy pass to get them out of the zone to gain speed. But Colorado, you build speed a lot of times through breaking out of your own zone, and they break out so clean sometimes with tape-to-tape passes that they have so much more speed coming through the neutral zone and entering the blue line that they get high danger scoring chances off the rush and getting to the areas that you want to score from because they move the puck so well, breaking out of the zone and skate so well.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch that blue line. People are going to say the forwards always get the attention. The casual fans always, I want to watch McKinnon. I want to watch McDavid. I want to watch Kane, Draisaitl, Rantanen, Landeskog. When I watch Colorado, I'm just as fascinated, if not more, by watching the blue line operate, watching those guys play. Cale Makar, Devon Taves. What a season for Devon Taves. What a pickup. Just absolutely stole him. An absolute theft from the New York Islanders. That was New York Islanders, by the way. Old man Lou in the offseason, bitching about, oh, we didn't have much offense from the defense this year. We got to work on that. You had Taves in your organization for years. You had him there. What are you talking about? I mean, my gosh, you had a chance to keep him. You didn't. And so I don't want to hear you screaming and bitching and moaning about not enough offense from the blue line. You had Devon Taves and you let him get away. That's your problem. You had him. Figure it out. I mean, my goodness. I mean, talk about they just absolutely pulled one over on the New York Islanders, getting Devon Taves from them. He's been absolutely outstanding for them. No question about that. We're going to wrap it up. We'll have in a second with best bets. I do want to mention the funny moment from Game 3, or I think it was Game 2 actually. Josh Manson scored for the Colorado Avalanche, and there is his dad, Dave Manson, who is, of course, an assistant coach for the Edmonton Oilers. He's looking up, and I think he's trying not to smile or something, but he's like, because he's obviously happy. It is his kid, but he is coaching for the other team, the Edmonton Oilers. He's probably thinking about saying, "That's my boy," but he's like, "Oh shit, I can't say that. I can't say that. They're gonna be pissed at me. We just got scored on. I got to keep that quiet." As Josh Manson's dad. It's a weird dynamic, huh? Father of your own father coaching as an assistant coach for the other team when you're playing against your dad in a playoff series. Sai, could you imagine going through that, with the dad on the other side coaching for the team you're trying to beat?
I'd be tripping my dad and going by the bench the whole time. The other team would be very happy about it, that's for sure. I actually think when he scored, he looked at the bench the whole time on the way by, on the flyby through the line. That he was like looking at the father to see if he'd get a reaction or not.
Like, what's up, Dad?
Yeah, exactly. Man, it's got to be awkward. That's all I can say. It's got to be a very, very strange feeling. What's going on with the Mansons, father Dave and son Josh, here in this series with Colorado and Edmonton. Sai, you hit it out of the park. You were awesome. Great job. Great show here for a Monday on the Ice, guys. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hit the like button on the way out. We'll get to best bets in just a second. A reminder, DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL team, get $150 in free bets if they win. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state, you can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contest. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN, bet just $1 on any NHL team, get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older, must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, and use the promo code THPN. All right, it is time for best bets. We'll start with our special guest here. Sai, it could be whoever. Who do you think wins? A player that you like? Anything you want. If you had to give one out, a best bet, what would it be, Sai?
Well, I think Edmonton's going to win tonight. I like Edmonton. I think you're going to say the horses are going to have to carry them and have to have some big games. And then I like Colorado. I know their power play has struggled a little bit, but I like them to have a power play goal tonight.
All right, there we go. And going against the grain, Edmonton Oilers here, which you can get at plus 115 to avoid the sweep. Have some pride, as you said, on home ice, and at least send this series back to a Game 5 in Denver, which would be played on Wednesday night. Andrew, we'll go to you. What do you like for best bet?
Best bet here, I'm going to go same as Alex B. Smith. So him and I are both locked in on the third period over. I'd go with 2. You can get 2.5 even. I want to see what he mentioned to us because he was talking about it as well. Yeah, I mean, you can get 2 even, or you get 2.5 at an even better plus price. But I think this game starts slow, and I think the goals start to come in. Edmonton has proven that I don't think they can win a low-scoring game. So if I think we're going to see them come out, like Sai said, I think we're going to see it in high-scoring fashion. I think buckle up, have your drinks ready, have your food ready. It's going to be a good game tonight.
All right. We hope so, because it's a betcast on Monday as well tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're looking forward to that. Ice Guys live betcast for Game 4, Oilers and Avs. DM or email if you want the link for the betcast, and we'll make sure you get on the betcast tonight with us as we see if the Oilers can avoid the sweep and extend this series. My best bet, City of Comfort, coming straight out of Comfort, and I'm coming straight for the bookie. to take his money with this prop. JT Compher plus 130 to get a point tonight. I'm going with a rare player prop best bet. He's got 5 points in the last 4 games, 5 goals in the last 4. I like the goal scorer prop too, but I'm going to go with the point prop because with Rantanen on one side, Lehkonen on the other side, I really could see JT Compher maybe dishing the puck a little bit more, not just looking to shoot with those 2 guys on his line here, centering that second line. So we'll go with JT Compher to get a point plus 130 for the Colorado Avalanche tonight. That is going to be my best bet for Game 4 between the Oilers and the Avs tonight. Great stuff. I don't know what happened to Alex. I guess it's tech. What happened?
Yeah, he sent his. He said that's why I mentioned his best bet as well. Him and I both
There you
like
go.
the
Third period over.
Yeah,
Okay,
period
so
over.
yeah, Alex had to leave early. Great stuff. That is the Ice Guys show. Sai, some final words from you. Thanks for joining us. Awesome guest you were. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed the show.
No, thanks for having me. Had a great time. Anytime you need, pop on if it works for both of us. And I hope everyone enjoys the game tonight.
All right, definitely. We'll try to bring you back maybe before the end of the season during the Cup final. We'll see if time permits. All right, great stuff. Hit the like button on the way out. That's the end of the show. Betcast tonight, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis and our special guest, Sai Nutkovitch, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And of course, the Betcast as well tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. The Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.